Alright y'all, let's get down to business here as we do have some activity picking up in the Atlantic Basin after it has been a very slow start to the Atlantic hurricane season, at least compared to the Pacific Basin. As you can see, we got Hurricane Gabrielle out there and we have a 90% chance and even an 80% chance of cyclone formation. First, let's go ahead and get into Hurricane Gabrielle, as that was actually projected to become a fish storm, but it has its eyes set on the Azores late Thursday and into Friday. Hurricane warnings have already been issued for the island chain, as hurricane conditions are likely Thursday night and into Friday, with significant hurricane force winds and even some dangerous storm surge. So definitely be aware of this, and even some swells are going to be generated by it, and will continue to affect Bermuda and the Atlantic coast for the next day or so. So definitely be aware of this if you live anywhere along the Atlantic coast, Bermuda, and even up there in Atlantic Canada, as this is just going to be a big old doozy as we head into this weekend, and it's even going to be impacting Europe as well. I know y'all don't get in on many hurricanes at all, and when you do, y'all don't get them as significantly as we do, but it's still going to be packing a punch, even though it's going to be a tropical depression by Sunday into Monday. So definitely be aware of this if you live out here by the Azores and over here by Europe. Now, for kicks and giggles, I did issue a fish storm probability for Hurricane Gabrielle, as this was a 95% chance of becoming a fish storm a couple days ago, and now it's down to a 1% chance, as it's expected to impact the Azores and approach the European continent. Now, as far as the 90% chance of development and the 80% chance of development, I've issued a 90% chance of this system here becoming a fish storm. Now, I issued a 5% chance of the 80% chance of development becoming a fish storm because it's expected to impact these islands here and may impact the east coast of the United States still, and maybe even impact Florida and maybe Bermuda. Now, this system here, the reason why I issued a 90% chance of becoming a fish storm is because it could still miss Bermuda. There's still a 5% chance of impact for Bermuda, and even a 5% chance of it continuing towards the west and impacting the east coast. So let's go ahead and get into the reason why I issued the probabilities that I did for these development chances. Now, as I pull up satellite here, you can see we have Gabrielle out there heading towards the Azores. And we have those development chances out here, out by the Caribbean islands, which may become a tropical depression later today, maybe even tomorrow, or maybe even a tropical storm. But I'll keep y'all posted once this video is uploaded. We can see they're starting to form rapidly, y'all. And as we take a look at the long-range model here to track exactly where these are going, we're going to focus first on the development chances. We can see that we're going to have some development by, I would say, Friday. I'm thinking by this time it's going to be a hurricane, and the 80% chance, I don't think it's going to form into anything. I think it's just going to become what's called a gully washer and bring a lot of rainfall to the southeast, Florida, and even these islands here. Now, that 90% chance of development, I think it's going to turn into a hurricane by this point, and it does have a 5% chance of hitting Bermuda. I think it's going to be more than that. I think it has more of a probably 10 to 15% chance of hitting y'all, and has an 80% chance of missing y'all. So that's a pretty good odds of missing y'all, but keep in mind it may still impact you guys. And I'll keep y'all posted, of course. But currently, still a 90% chance of missing y'all, so that's some good news. But what's not good news is still going to be dealing with some pretty soggy conditions down here in these islands here, as there's a 5% chance of that becoming a fish storm, but I don't think it's going to be a hurricane or tropical storm or anything. I think at most maybe a tropical depression, and bring some rough conditions out here along these Caribbean islands and bring a lot of rainfall, like I said earlier, here along the east coast and Florida. Now, as far as Gabrielle goes, we already know about this one, but you can see it's going to be impacting y'all by this weekend, and it's going to be heading toward the European continent by early next week. And as we head back to Gabrielle, I want to show y'all the wind speed probabilities here, since I didn't show y'all that. We can see definitely going to be bringing along a lot of winds with it, and for some reason it doesn't have the storm surge of what y'all could expect with it, but it's going to be bringing a lot of storm surge with it, so definitely be aware of that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the parameters behind these systems. And first, we're going to take a look at the sea surface temperatures, and then we're going to take a look at the Saharan dust. And the Saharan dust is what inhibits hurricane and tropical storm activity. As you can see here, push into Wednesday into Thursday, got very favorable sea surface temperatures here in the Atlantic Basin and even out here in the Gulf of America and even out here where the development chances are. So that's what's fueling those, of course. And you can see Gabrielle up here heading towards the Azores and heading towards the European continent. And as it approaches the European continent, it's going to weaken significantly because, as you can see, not very favorable sea surface temperatures out there. It's very chilly waters out there, to be honest with y'all. And you can see once those systems down here move through those favorable waters and reducing the temperatures down a little bit, but still relatively favorable for this time of year though, so we could potentially have more systems working its way through these waters, and we are heading past the meat and potatoes of hurricane season, and I think we're going to be winding down in activity as we head into October, and I'll show you the reason why here in a little bit. As far as the Saharan dust goes, this is one of the reasons why we haven't had very much activity at all this year. I know we had a 90% chance earlier on this season, and it weakened down significantly because of the Saharan dust. And we can see that it's not influencing these development chances very much, and it's not influencing Gabrielle at all. That's why Gabrielle has formed, and that's why these development chances are so high, is because the Saharan dust ain't choking off the life force of these development chances, and I'm thinking the 90% chance is definitely going to be forming into something, and where it goes is to be determined, of course. I think it's going to recurve and not impact anybody. That's the best case scenario, but can will change and potentially impact Bermuda. And as we push this further into the future, we can see that Saharan dust heading further towards the south, so I mean, we could have more activity here in the future, and as I go back to the GFS and show y'all further out, we can see we got that 90% chance of development, potentially becoming a hurricane by this point, and we have Gabrielle impacting Europe. And once that 90% chance of development moves out, gets out of our hair, it's not looking like any sort of systems are going to be affecting us here in the near term. We might have a lot of systems down here in the Gulf of America, but I'm not expecting anything too significant here in the long term. So once those systems move out, I think our hurricane season is going to start to wind down, and we're not going to have anything to worry about. So that is some good news, y'all. And I think this hurricane season is going to be well below average. So we'll take it. Not complaining here. We don't want any hurricanes affecting us here in the lower 48. Now, as far as the Pacific Basin goes, it has been a very active hurricane season out there. As you can see, we have Hurricane Narda out there. Now, Hawaii, y'all don't have to worry about this one. It's expected to remain a hurricane all the way into Sunday, but expected to head towards the north into California and the Baja by next week. So nothing to worry about with that. And the probabilities of this one becoming a fish storm is at a 95% chance of becoming a fish storm, so pretty good odds of not affecting y'all out there by Hawaii. So that's some good news if y'all are heading out towards Hawaii for a vacation. No sort of system is going to be impacting y'all here in the near term anyway. And let's go ahead and take a look at the satellite for Narda. We can see Narda out here just south of Mexico. And we pull up the GFS real quick, pull up the simulated infrared. We can see that it's expected to head out towards Hawaii, but don't worry, it's expected to head towards the north and impact California and the Baja as we head into the beginning of October, and may bring a lot of flooding and a lot of rainfall down here to Southern California and the Baja. Now, as we push this out further into the future, we can see that we're not going to have anything in the way of any sort of tropical activity for the next couple of weeks. So that is some very good news if you are planning a vacation to Hawaii, as they are not going to be dealing with any sort of tropical systems, at least for the next couple of weeks. So if you have plans to head out to Hawaii, you're going to be good to go out there. Now, lastly, let's go ahead and take a look at the sea surface temperatures for kicks and giggles. Now we can see Narda is right here where these very favorable sea surface temperatures are. And of course, as we head further out, it's going to be heading towards the north into these very chilly waters, where it's going to be weakening down significantly, but will still bring a lot of heavy rainfall and potential flooding down here in Southern California into the northern Baja. So again, nothing to worry about out here by Hawaii. Good to go to take a vacation out there if you want to take a vacation out there. So now that I beat the dead horse on the tropics, it's going to take a look at the global tropics hazards outlook from October 1st through the 14th. We can see that it's looking like the Atlantic is going to start to wind down in activity compared to the Pacific Basin, where it's looking like activity is just going to pick up out there as we head into October. So again, out here in the Atlantic Basin, you got to watch out for these development chances. Pretty good odds of becoming at least a tropical depression, or maybe even a tropical storm, or at most a hurricane. I think the 90% chance has a greater odds of becoming a hurricane, and possibly impacting Bermuda, but of course, keep y'all posted on X and Facebook of these development chances with updates on these probabilities, as currently the 90% chance has a 90% chance of remaining a fish storm, 5% chance of hitting Bermuda, and a 5% chance of hitting the East Coast. But the 80% chance of development has a 5% chance of remaining a fish storm, mainly because it's going to be affecting these islands here and just become, I think, a golly washer, as they call it. Basically, a big old rainstorm impacting the East Coast, Florida, and these islands here. Now, as far as Gabrielle goes, make sure you are aware of this. Probably already aware of this by now if you live out here in the Azores. And over here in the European continent, as it's going to be heading y'all's way, is a 1% chance of becoming a fish storm. But after these systems move out, not going to have any sort of systems out there for the next couple of weeks. So that's some very good news, as we are going to be winding down the hurricane season as we head into the middle of October, at least according to the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook anyway. Now the Pacific Basin, don't have anything to worry about out there. Got Hurricane Narda. It's expected to turn towards the north and head into California and the Baja as we head into next week. So nothing to worry about if you live out there by Hawaii, but according to the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook, it's looking like activity could potentially be picking up as we head into October, so be aware of that. So now that I beat the dead horse on the tropics, let's go ahead and get into the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the 29th through the 3rd, as we are past the first day of fall. And happy fall, by the way, for those fall lovers out there. And it's not looking like it's going to be feeling like fall for us here amongst the lower 48, at least for the next couple of weeks anyway. And unfortunately, as we head further into October, it's not going to be feeling like fall either. I think we're going to be going from summer to winter, if I'm honest with y'all, because it's usually how it goes. The reason why I'm saying that is because you can see we're going to be above average for at least from now into October 7th. So summer-like temperatures looking to be in store, but above average temperatures obviously don't mean very, very hot temperatures. It just means above average for this time of year. We can have, let's say, low 80-degree temperatures here in, let's say, Nebraska, right? That's still above average, at least compared to what the average is. Let's say the average, I think, would be 70 degrees for this time of year. That's why they put above average. So let's go ahead and get into the temperatures of what we could expect for the next couple of weeks. And according to the Climate Prediction Center, it's not going to be feeling like fall. So we can see that at least for today and tomorrow, it's going to be unseasonably warm out there. I think it's pretty nice. Of course, I'm kind of biased. I like summertime temperatures. I know most of y'all love the crisp, cool fall air. And it's not going to be feeling like that as we head into this weekend. Y'all are enjoying those good old college football games. Looks like you're going to be sweating your tuchuses off down here in the Southern Plains. On NFL Sunday, it's going to be even worse. It's going to be up here in the mid-80s to low 90s as far north as North Dakota. But don't worry, though, if you love that crisp, cool fall air, it's going to be here before you know it. As you can see, we got some crisp, cool fall air out here in the Mountain West, while the eastern part of the country is still going to be dealing with that summertime heat. But of course, if you hate the summertime heat, it's going to be going away very soon, y'all, as this cool air is going to be stretching its way down as we head into October. It's looking like we're going to be going from summer to winter here before we know it. October 6th, we're going to be dealing with close to 30-degree temperatures up here in Montana. That's more like winter-like air, so we're going to be freezing our tuchuses off. So we're basically going to be going from sweating our tuchuses off to freezing our tuchuses off up here in the northern plains, as we're going to be coming from almost 90-degree temperatures up here on the first day of October to close to almost 30-degree temperatures by October 5th. So we're going to be sweating our tuchuses off, and then we're going to be freezing our tuchuses off. So look forward to that, y'all, if you love the crisp, cool air. But please be aware, we are in the I don't know what to wear kind of season. If you're a fall lover, then you're going to be loving this. But I'm thinking we're going to be heading from summer to winter very, very rapidly. I don't think we're going to have much in the way of fall-like temperatures. I think it's going to be getting cold before you know it, y'all. So now that we know we're going to be going from pretty much summer to winter as we head into October, and we're not going to be dealing with those fall temperatures for very long, go ahead and get into the precipitation outlook for what we could expect for the next couple of weeks, since we dealt with a very calm September, and it's looking like the end of September is going to remain that way, as we're going to be still in a dry pattern from Texas up into the northeast. Very dry from Michigan up into Maine, though. The southeast is going to be above average, mainly because of those tropical systems moving in. And the mountain west is going to be very, very above average. And I'm thinking we're going to be coming into a active weather pattern as we head into October. According to the Climate Prediction Center, it's looking like much of the country is going to be heading into a near normal to above average precipitation pattern, unless you live up here in the northeast and a little bit of Ohio, Indiana, and much of Michigan. Now, the reason why I'm thinking we're going to be coming into an active weather pattern other than what the Climate Prediction Center showed us is because you can see we're currently going to be dealing with a lot of heavy rain for the next couple of days, but then we're going to be getting a break once we head into the end of September, unless you live down here in the southwest. That's mainly driven because of the precipitation from NARDA moving towards the north, and it's looking like the end of September is going to be what we've dealt with pretty much for the whole entire month of September, which has been a very quiet weather pattern. But of course, the reason why I'm saying we're going to be coming in on an active weather pattern is because as we head into October, I'm expecting this to change rapidly. As you can see, we're going to potentially be coming in on severe weather here in the north central part of the country as we head into the October 5th time frame. So definitely be aware of this. We are coming in on a volatile temperature pattern, which means a volatile severe weather pattern, as well as we have that hot air coming from the north, cool air coming down from Canada. Then bam, we have that severe weather here in the north central part of the country, which could potentially bring snowfall with it, as well as I did show y'all that we are going to be coming from summer to winter pretty much here in the middle of October, which is going to result in some very chilly temperatures here in the north central part of the country. So if you love the cool air, then look forward to it. If you hate the cool air, then I guess this is a sight for sore eyes. But of course, further we head out, the more uncertainty there is. But thinking that we're going to be heading into a quiet pattern for the end of this month. It's going to be eerily quiet out there, but then the activity is going to start to pick up once we head into a volatile temperature pattern, and this is going to result in some severe weather and some backside potential snow with it as well. So keep this in mind. This schedule will change between now and then, so please take this with a grain of salt. Now, before we wrap this video up, I'm going to show y'all some fall foliage, what you could expect from now all the way into the beginning of October, and then the bird migration as we are heading to peak migration for the birds out there. You can see today, as far as the fall foliage goes, you can see the Mountain West is heading into peak fall foliage. We have some low color here in the Midwest and down here in the plains as well. Northeast coming on some color as we push this further into the future. By October 1st, let's say, we have even more color on the map, heading to peak fall foliage out here in the Mountain West and up here into the Northwest. Minnesota, Wisconsin heading into peak foliage. Northeast as well. Has some color here in Indiana, so might get some pictures out there of the fall leaves once we do see some here in the Williams Weather headquarters. And I did spot a willy worm out there when I was tending to the garden this past weekend, and it was an itty bitty guy. It was a black willy worm, which means we could be dealing with a very, very bad winter. So hopefully that's not true, but I'll be including that in my winter outlook, which will be up in the middle of October. So stay tuned, y'all. We are getting closer to winter, and it's going to be feeling like it as we head into October, by the way. So that's unfortunate. But I know most of y'all love fall and love the cool temperatures, so look forward to that if you love the cool air. Now, as far as the bird migration goes, we are heading to peak timing for bird migration. We're going to have 438 million birds projected to move through tonight. A little bit less tomorrow, but still 422 million moving through tomorrow night. And what about on the night of the 26th? A little bit less, but still 379 million birds moving through. So make sure you turn those lights off as those birds are moving through. And let's go ahead and take a look at last night's live bird migration map. Birds start migrating at right around midnight. So we can see right around midnight, they start picking up in activity. Right around 800 million birds right around midnight moving through. So they are moving through in droves, y'all. But it's going to be remaining warm for a little while. And I think they're moving through right on time because it's going to be getting cold out there as we head into the middle of October. So if I was a bird and saw this forecast, I would be moving right now because it's going to be getting chilly out there here soon. And speaking of the chill, we got Halloween coming up, y'all. That's our next big holiday. We're 36 days away, so get excited. Now for this year's Halloween outlook for the trick-or-treaters, I will have a fictional story up as well as some facts and folklore about the good old tradition of Halloween, so stay tuned for that as we are getting closer to the spooky holiday. Now to wrap up this video, basically for the next couple of weeks, gonna be warmer than normal out there, although we are past the first day of fall. It's not gonna be feeling like it though, but don't worry though, if you love the cool air, we are gonna be coming in on unseasonably cool air as we head into the middle of October. It's gonna be more like winter time here before we know it. I think we're gonna be going from summer to winter basically here across the lower 48, which could also bring severe weather and snow. And speaking of that, first precipitation goes for the next couple of weeks. It's looking to be a quiet weather pattern for the next week or so, but don't be too caught off guard though, because as we head into October, I think we're going to start to pick up an activity when it comes to severe weather, at least here in the central part of the country, so definitely be aware of that. And it could also bring some backside snow with it as well. And as far as tropical activity goes, from October 1st through the 14th, I think we're going to start to wind down in the Atlantic Basin once those systems start to move through. At least Gabrielle and the 90 and 80% chance move through. I think we're going to start to wind down. And the Pacific Basin is looking to pick up an activity once Narda moves through. And I'm thinking this week, I think we're going to get a break for tropical activity, but once we head into October, I think activity is going to start to pick up again here in the Pacific Basin, as the Pacific Basin has been very, very active this year. And I did forget to show y'all the drought map, which is very surprising as the eastern part of the country is starting to dry out after we did come in on a very soggy spring and early summer. So sort of a good thing here in the eastern part of the country, at least for some of us that got sick of seeing the rain this past spring, but we are going to be dealing with a very active weather pattern, like I said earlier, as we head into October. Southwest, still dry down there, but Narda is supposed to come up and I think bring y'all some well-needed precipitation. So, one final thing here. I did go down a rabbit hole of some ancient history. I find it very interesting, by the way, and came up with a story here about this week in ancient weather history, since weather did influence those battles back in the ancient times. Now, the storm that saved England. In the autumn of 1588, the seas around the British Isles churned with a fury that would change the course of history. It was late September, and the Spanish Armada, King Philip II, grand fleet of 130 ships, bristling with cannons and carrying thousands of soldiers, was limping home after a failed invasion of England. The English Navy, led by Sir Francis Drake, had outmaneuvered the Spanish in the English Channel, but it was the sky that would deal the fatal blow. The Armada, already battered, chose a perilous route, north around Scotland, then west past Ireland's jagged coasts. As the calendar neared what we now call late September, the North Atlantic unleashed its wrath. Towering waves, driven by howling winds, crashed against the Spanish galleons. These weren't just storms, they were tempests born of the restless autumn seas, with gusts that shredded sails and snapped masts like twigs, one by one. Ships were flung onto Ireland's rocky shores. The San Juan de Sicilia wrecked off Streetdog Strand, its crew drowning or cut down by local clans. The Garana sank near the Giant's Causeway, claiming over 1,000 lives. By the time the storms relented, nearly half of the Armada was lost, and some 20,000 Spanish sailors and soldiers were dead, many swallowed by the sea. For England, the storms were a miracle. Queen Elizabeth I's advisors called it the Protestant wind, a divine gust sent to save their nation from Catholic Spain. The victory cemented England's naval prowess and set it on a path to global dominance. In Spain, the loss was a gut punch, marking the start of its decline as Europe's superpower. Whispers of the storm's unnatural fury spread. And in Britain, fear of witchcraft led to one of the earliest witch trials, as locals blamed sorcery for conjuring the deadly gales. And a fun fact about this event: the storms that wrecked the Spanish Armada inspired the phrase "the winds of fate." English propagandists claimed God himself sent the gales to protect England, while Spanish sailors cursed their luck, believing the weather was bewitched. This clash of perspectives fueled a cultural divide that lingered for centuries, with England's triumph celebrated in songs, tapestry, and even a famous portrait of Elizabeth I standing triumphantly over a stormy sea. So there is some ancient history that you most likely never knew at the end of September. So I hope everybody enjoyed today's video. If you did, please make sure you hit that like and share button. Helps more than you know. Make sure you comment down below, as feedback helps provide you, the viewer, better and more informative content. in the future. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, because at Hero Wins Weather we try to make weather forecasting fun and informative. So again, I hope y'all enjoy this nice warm weather for the next couple of weeks, because I'm thinking it's going to be getting very chilly heading into the middle of October. So look forward to that if you're a fall lover, and the leaves are going to be changing rapidly here very soon. So if you have any sort of fall foliage pictures you want to send me over to my X and Facebook pages. I would greatly appreciate that, y'all. And those birds are going to be rapidly migrating out too, y'all. So if you have any sort of pictures you want to send me of any birds, I would greatly appreciate that as well. So again, enjoy the nice weather for the next couple of weeks. I'm thinking it's going to be getting very stormy as well. So again, like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate all y'all for watching. And until next time, never stop forecasting.